mwongeye kurirwa neza abakunzi bacu ba Sound 250. Uyu munsi tukaba twongeye turagenda turacukumbura mu nda y'isi tubakuriraho amakuru ari kuvugwa hirya no hino haba ku mugabane w'Uburayi ndetse no mugabane wa Afrika. Na makuru akomeje gucicikana mu bihugu bigize isi yose. So nta yandi makuru rero ni intambara iri kubera hariya mu gihugu cha Israel n'ubundi intambara ikomeje kugenda yangiza byinshi kandi inasenya byinshi cyane. So tudatinze rero n'ubundi nkuko bisanzwe murabizi ibyacu ni faster kabisa, tukaba tugiye kunyarukirayo tubereke amashusho y'ukuntu ibintu bihagaze hari ahantu kabisa. Ngiye nabo byanteye ubwoba, nabonye ibintu bimeze nabi cyane kabisa. So reka n'ubundi tunyaruke duhita dutangirana n'amashusho twagiye ducukumbura hirya no hino tuyakura ahantu hacu mwibanga twiturije. So then rero reka dutangirane n'ibi bintu rwose ngiye kubereka namwe. Ibi bintu birababaje my friend, kadutangire mbanze mbereke kabisa ibi bintu ngiye byanteye n'ubwoba kabisa. Abakunzi bacu gusa mbibutse gukomeza gukanda subscribe kuri sana 250 kugira ngo tujye tubagezaho ibintu bimeze neza cyane kabisa. Murabizi filimi tuba duhari, comedy tubasetsa bimeze neza, then n'ibiganiro kabisa. Murabizi ibintu byacu ni moto.
Israel is reeling, a nation in deep shock and grief. Where have you been? He screams at the soldiers. It's the question all Israelis want answered after their enemy caught their military completely unawares. My brother, he cries, killed today by Hamas. He died in this. Mid-morning on an Israeli highway, Hamas fighters engaged in a firefight with Israeli soldiers, civilians cowering inside their cars. The morning after Israel's worst ever day of civilian casualties, and the killing goes on. 15 Israelis reported dead in this shootout. Israel says it's killed all the Hamas militants here, but how many more are on the loose? What's happened here bears out the threat by Hamas commanders to take their fight beyond Gaza, inside Israel. Not just the communities around Gaza, but further afield, they say, as far as Jerusalem and into the occupied West Bank. Down the road, more signs of Hamas's rampage. Ashkelon is a city on edge. Like communities across southern Israel, where soldiers are trying to hunt down the enemy. And there is the constant threat from the air. Itzik and Karnit showed us what's left of their backyard, destroyed by a Hamas rocket. They told us Gaza must now be erased from the map.
Gaza should be deleted. All the land, take down all the buildings. That's what you should do to all of Gaza.
The ones who want terror, the ones who want to kill, take them out. We don't want them here. We want peace.
They're fleeing their homes, seeking safety in the north of the country. Israel's military says it'll make their lives safe again.
A checkpoint on one of the busiest highways in southern Israel. Israeli forces here are checking to make sure that none of these Palestinian gunmen who are in control of some of these southern towns are trying to make their way north, back up towards Tel Aviv, towards Jerusalem. As you said, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu addressing his people this morning, saying this is a nation at war. And he says this is on a magnitude far above and beyond the rounds of fighting that we have seen between Israel and Hamas over the last decade or so. This is on a scale we have not seen before. We have been watching Israeli jets overhead flying into Gaza to strike targets there. But Prime Minister Netanyahu says this is only the beginning of what will be a massive Israeli retaliation. The so-called military wing of Hamas says they launched this attack in revenge, in retaliation for Israel's mistreatment of Palestinians in the occupied West Bank in East Jerusalem. But Israel is very clear that this is an act of terrorism. I just spoke to an Israeli official who says that there were at minimum hundreds of Palestinian gunmen who crossed the border this morning, and he says the correct term to use here is an invasion. Now, guys, Israel has not been surprised on this scale since October 1973, almost exactly 50 years ago today, during the Yom Kippur War, when Israel was surprised by a combined Egyptian-Syrian invasion, an invasion that almost wiped this country out. That was a day that changed Israeli history forever, and this is starting to feel like another one of those days. Guys.
Arafe, we know this is all unfolding right now. It's obviously an active situation, but talk to us about the hostages. What are we talking about in terms of how many people and the plan to get them back?
Laura, it is not clear right now how many Israelis have been taken hostage by Hamas, but there is no more sensitive piece of information in Israel right now than how many Israelis are inside of the Gaza Strip. The Israeli government, the Israeli people, the state of Israel puts an enormous value on getting its people back, whether they are alive or whether they are dead. And if there are live Israelis, soldiers, but especially if there are civilians inside of Gaza right now, there is almost no length that the Israeli government will not go to get them back. And it may be that this Israeli government, this extreme right Israeli government under the leadership of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, feels it has no choice but to launch a major ground offensive inside of Gaza to rescue these Israeli hostages. And if it comes to that, if there is major fighting inside of those densely populated urban centers in Gaza City, in Khan Yunis, then what is already a high death toll, likely to rise higher still. The official death toll inside of Israel, according to the Israeli Emergency Services, is at 22. But I can tell you guys, everyone here, based on these harrowing videos we are seeing on social media, expects that that death toll is going to rise further over the course of the day. Guys.
Undoubtedly, that is unfortunately true. Raf Sanchez, thank you for being on the ground for us. Stay safe there. Bring us more information.
Over, saying most of the Hamas forces have been fought off, but Israeli forces continued to bomb Hamas targets. The surprise attack left at least 250 Israelis dead and 1,590 wounded, with 230 Palestinians reportedly killed. Dozens of Israeli soldiers and civilians seized in raids on compounds and homes were taken to Gaza as hostages. The day of violence left many questions unanswered for Israel. How was such a complex operation planned in complete secrecy? And which countries backed Hamas with weapons and technology? Gun battles continued into Sunday morning, Israelis fighting to take back a police station from Hamas fighters.